So, Mr. Minister, Mrs. Minister, I'm very glad that you are here, and I would have to, I must congratulate the organizers, the regulators, the members of the companies present here, all business community. It's very encouraging to see you in great numbers in such a conference. I'm very encouraged by this, and my presence here has a particular message to give you. First of all, that the Embassy of Greece, and Greece in particular as a friend and neighbor, is with you in your endeavor to adjust, to transform society, economy, politics, your country, and to move vigorously into the information age. As everybody else is doing, we are doing the same. I have to say outright, right from the beginning, that due to also to our experience, know-how, and due to also our own, let's say, digital and ICT development, we will be most glad to be able to give you, in practical terms, also a hand in your effort. But let me go back and say a couple of words about what I think. I was also personally involved in this ICT, let's say, technological revolution and regulation and all that, when I was ambassador of Greece to Coreper 1 in Brussels. And one of the major subject matters of legislation in the European Union was indeed information communications technology. So I was deeply involved in that. Only a few diplomats had the honor and the pleasure to do that, and I think I was very impressed and personally interested in that. So I would say, I would quote, one of my favorite quotes is, it comes from a computer science Alan Kay, who said that the best way to predict the future is to invent it. And actually, ICT, information technology, has been doing that for the last 60 years at least. Or I would say also the last 100 years. It has been indeed inventing the future. And not only that, it has created, of course, the most meaningful increases in innovation. That is, most of the innovation, according to scholars like Walter Isaacson, that wrote a very interesting book back in 2014 about innovation, he said that actually most of the innovation produced in the last 60 years, if not the last century, comes exactly from information and communications technology. And not only that, but if we were to move in the economic and financial world, we will see that indeed most of the productivity changes, indeed the productivity increases in real economy is due to ICT and to information technology development and progress. So another factor to consider apart from the quantitative ones is the fact of social change. Information and communications technology, and what we mean by that is basically the miraculous device called the personal computer, which is also user-friendly, it's interactive, the internet, the World Wide Web, and the smartphone, mobile telephony in particular, which has transformed everything into a mobile experience, have radically changed not just the economy, not just business, not just productivity, competitiveness, altered also the terms of our living, everyday living, the terms of society. Actually, I wanted to stress that social change is different now. It's qualitatively different from what it was 100 years ago. And the reason why this is true is that, first of all, because of personal computers, if I'm allowed to contribute some personal thoughts, personal computers have made an enormous amount of information available to individuals. This has been a very democratic, if you allow me, the development in modern history, probably the most democratic development in modern history, because it's not just the amount of information, but the basis of information that people who are actually in contact with that information has increased. So this is extremely important. The second very basic fact to remember is that because of the World Wide Web, which by the way has been developed for military purposes at the beginning, as the first big computer in 1946, ENIAC, was developed in order to compute the trajectory of shells. Well, you should remember it comes from computer technology. So what I was saying is that this particular changes in information technology have produced a new kind of society. That is, a society, especially the World Wide Web, that has given the opportunity not just of instant communication and effective communications within groups, for example, within big corporations, within big societies, with big business or whatever, but also among groups, among crowds of people, huge crowds of people that are unknown to each other, are strangers to each other. It has created a new reality, a new social reality. And there have been books and books that have been written upon social networks. This is a reality of social networks, and especially social media and the rest of it that are within this new reality. This has radically changed not just the world we're living in, but also our perception. Is changing our perception of the world we're living in and of the way we are thinking about the world we're living in. So these two, so in two words, this ICT revolution, because it's a revolution and this revolution is continuing, has not changed the way we educate ourselves or we entertain ourselves, but also the way we collaborate with ourselves and the way we connect with each other. So I contribute these thoughts because probably sometimes we have to leave the trees and to look at the forest and to look at this huge revolution. Now, what is the why is this so important also for our countries? It's important also for countries, except for societies and peoples and individuals and whatever. Because this is the only way that one can survive in the globalized environment, the huge and the very Darwinian, if I'm allowed the expression, the Darwinian environment of today's globalized world. There's no other way. It's actually a one-way street. If one does not follow, does not innovate within this path, I'm sure that the surest way to go is extinction. So I would say this is a one-way street. Second point that I would like to make is that the European Union, where I was a few years ago, has very seriously taken this into consideration. As you know, in the European Union we have a strategy which is called Europe 2020. In the Europe 2020 strategy, innovation, since we are in the Innovation Week, and I welcome this, innovation, education, and research are the three parts of an interwoven interactive triangle, which we call triangle of knowledge. This is the basis of one of the pillars, of the three pillars. The other is sustainability and social inclusiveness of the Agenda 2020 of the strategy of the European Union towards the future. This is where Albania goes. This is where Albania should go. This is where Greece is going. This is where everybody should go. And especially, I remind you of the digital agenda, and I'm sure that my good friend Clive Rumble, representative of the European Union, will expand on that, will elaborate on that. But digital agenda is also a very important part of what the European Union is doing in bringing us into the new information technology age. I would like to say a couple of words from my experience again in the European Union. First of all, as the Minister said, there is a big challenge which is called the single market. The single market of the European Union probably is the biggest achievement of the European Union ever since its inception and creation in 1957. And it has been the driving force behind growth and everything else. So the single market will never take off if it doesn't become a digitalized single market. If it doesn't work in conjunction with the ICT technological breakthroughs. We have a long way to go, unfortunately. There are many things that you hear. For example, one big challenge is e-commerce. But I would like also to stay on what Milena Jarito said. One of the big challenges for everybody is e-government and the application of ICT and the breakthroughs, the new technology which is evolving, and thank God it's evolving, in the public sector, in the public administration, in how to develop the new kind of administration that we want. Because there is an old kind of administration that goes back to the France of the Code Civil and Napoleon, and there's a new kind of administration which is based on the breakthroughs of information and communication technology, and especially in the last years after 1970, but even before. So this is a huge challenge, how to create a state which would not be as big as in the past, would not rely on the staff, the big numbers of employees, but would rely on new communication tools, on data banks, on very modern ways to deal with information. So this is a huge challenge. Two words, also a huge challenge that I would like also to stress here, that we have been facing also always, but I think it's a condition to move forward, is, let's say, the legal or the regulatory framework challenge, I would call it. The fact that the big question is called free internet. How can you arrive, which of course, already it's becoming mobile. It will be mobile in no time. I think this is the future. But how does one regulate this, and how does one guarantee the equilibrium between effectiveness, productivity, free business, unhindered business development and innovation, and on the other hand, regulation without stifling the efforts of the innovators and the inventors. That's an equilibrium that has to be taken into consideration. But the protection of personal data, the limits to the state intervention in controlling the internet and controlling the data flow are important problems in dealing with personal data, personal information between businesses. These have to be dealt with. So legal regulation, if not advanced quickly and effectively, will not allow business expansion and will not give the basis for further business development, in my view. So this is one of the urgent tasks that we have to deal with. I hope that this conference will deal also with that problem. Last but not least, I would like to say why I think that Greece can be useful in this endeavor. I think Albania, we're living in Albania. What I see is a very progressive effort to move in the right direction. I think this is the only way that Albania can actually skip some chapters in the developmental, let's say, ladder. You can skip chapters, you can jump over obstacles through ICT and move immediately into the ICT, into the information age. Become a full member of that age and become one of the first countries. Now you are on a very good track, I think. And one of the things that I have noticed, which is very interesting, especially lately also in our report about attitudes towards the European Union, it was a survey, of opinion survey, among many people here in Albania. What I noticed is that there is a great difference between the youth and the old generations in treating the information, in how they use new technologies. Your youth, according to this survey, is fully digitalized, and it's fully European already, if not fully Americanized, if I'm allowed to put this into the discussion. they are not lacking from any youth around in Europe or in any other place in the world. So this is a very good sign. The fact that most of their information comes from the internet, and most of the information comes through mobile devices and through also social media. That's something that the difference is not huge with European Union averages. And most importantly, I think there have been very, very dynamic changes towards the direction which I consider to be the indicated direction. So you're moving in the right direction fast. So it doesn't matter whether the difference is big or small. The fact remains that the gap is closing fast. So I'm very encouraged about Albania. Let me tell you that maybe Albania could also take advantage of some of our know-how and some of our experience. In Greece, we have taken this information communication technology very seriously. With the aid of the European Union and the programs financed also by the European Union, we have initiated a huge program of, we call it digital convergence. One of my associates in the embassy, Mr. Haropoulos, is going to speak about that. But I would like to say that we have already initiated, for example, Taxisnet, which is a special network through which taxes are collected without any contact of the taxpayer with the administration. This happened in the past. Now there's no contact. Everything happens electronically. The declaration of assets that you do, or your income declaration, comes only, solely, by force. It comes through the internet. There's no other way anymore. So the same goes with e-procurement, and the same goes with e-prescription. So I mean, we have been doing taking important steps forward. I think we can be helpful in transmitting some of that experience, at least discussing some of that experience with you. I hope this will happen also during this conference. And I would like to thank you again very much for giving me the opportunity to speak on this subject. I'm sorry to have taken so much of your time. I think ICT is also, we have used it also in my country to bridge the so-called digital divide. I mean, this was a big issue in the European Union, I remember, and I'm sure it will be a big issue for the years to come. That is allowing, you know, as many people and as remote areas that you have in any country to have access to information in the best possible way. So this is one of the challenges. I wish you all the best in this conference. May we continue this also in the future. May this Innovation Week be protracted and become a sort of a continuing feature in the administration of this country. You know, it's something, I think this revolution has a long way to go, although it doesn't look like, for example, I mean, we all know about the Internet of Things. We are moving in in the digitalization of everything now. So, I mean, there's a long way to go, but there's also a way of accelerating your course and cutting through intermediate chapters and going immediately to the top. So this is a lesson from ICT. Moving faster, it allows you to move faster and deeper than anything else, as it did with the Gutenberg revolution, for example. So I wish Albania all the best in this, and I wish your Congress all the success in the world.